Boom. So, thank you. Tell me about what you do. Financial services and AI through data analytics. That's what I've read.
Financial services and AI and yeah, so Intrepid, right? I always say, hey, I started this out as a hobby, never really thinking it was going to ever evolve into what it is today. And after being an early stage founder myself, I ran around town begging for money, tap dancing across stage, and trying to get capital, access to capital, and hence we built Intrepid. Intrepid's essentially a technology that allows us, utilizing AI and our hard code, to be able to analyze client files, industry agnostic nationwide, and be able to syndicate and partner those opportunities with financial institutions nationwide to provide them with growth capital.
Nice. Do you do that in the nonprofit space as well, or just for profits?
Industry agnostic. We can do just about any industry in there, from $5,000 essentially loans up to $100 million. We have over 150 private lenders. We're bringing on our first institutional bank lenders on there as well, that essentially saying, there's a better path for every organization out there. I say someone loves you, it just might not be in your backyard. So let's find who that institution is out there that really likes your business based on the characteristics and the numeric information on your financials and the projection of where you're about to go. Slightly different from a bank, because banks look more rear view mirror. We look more for those businesses that are looking forward, looking out the windshield versus the rear view mirror, and that are looking have a true growth plan.
That man, it's so ironic because I was just listening to the podcast Possible this morning, which is Reid Hoffman, the CEO of LinkedIn, and they've done something very similar with linking people to a project that they want to do, like putting out almost like an RFP, and then once they found the companies that were looking for that fit what they were trying to do, they then matched them with the financiers. But the other companies that are putting out these RFPs, if they didn't match that project, they were able to match them with people who wanted to fund those kind of projects. So, yeah, it sounds like you're on the cutting edge. You're right there with Reid Hoffman. So, next CEO of LinkedIn, sitting right here,
All
Steve.
right, yeah, I'm holding you to it, man. I'm going to write that down. That Jason said I can be the next CEO of LinkedIn, and that.
Okay, if you are, you have to add AI skills to the damn thing that where you're allowed to add, where you put what skills you have. Like, I'm so annoyed that they don't have the availability for you to put like AI skills in that thing yet.
Yeah, it seems slightly antiquated, seeing that AI has been out really for years, a ton. In Intrepid, we funded our first AI company in 2022, before really anybody was talking about AI. That was a local Indiana company that we provided non-dilutive growth capital to, that continued to scale because we were providing it. And if you really think back to 2022, AI really wasn't that common word, and it,
Not at all.
nobody was talking about it. But yeah, we did our first deal in AI in 2022, and it was really about looking at these companies on looking forward about what their plan is and how they would be able to have access to non-dilutive growth capital to continue to scale at a time that people weren't interested in putting venture capital into these early stage companies like that.
Yeah, and that's been good for the whole industry. In all transparency, I didn't really explore AI until ChatGPT launched either. But being in healthcare, like I think fintech and healthcare both suffer from this idea that to most people, AI is large language models, and the technology in finance and healthcare and everything else that AI incorporates or encompasses is like that's a whole lot more than just large language models. Um, Go ahead.
No, I was going to say this 1000%. And you really look at it, even from our side, from a fintech side of the organization or healthcare, you're really looking at those antiquated industries, right? Who are the antiquated industries that would be able to use a system such as, if it's a large learning language model, whatever it is out there, to be able to evolve that organization or that industry into the current century, right? These are the ones that are more easily disruptive, is the AI in fintech, the AI in healthcare, that are those antiquated industries.
Yeah, I think if you look at like a community mental health center, my wife works for a community mental health center, and our company partners with one. Like those are like the government funded gigantic mental health quadrants of states, right? And inside those, the way that they're dysfunctional for the most part because they have so many clients and so many employees, like they're 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 people with serious mental illnesses are seeing a different nurse practitioner every couple months. They're complaining about the side effects of their medication because that nurse practitioner doesn't know what happened with the last three nurse practitioners. They're prescribing them a new medication, so there's never any balance. Appointments gets missed. Like all that kind of stuff. I'm just like, man, data analytics and machine learning could streamline these processes so much better. And now that we have large language models, you don't even have to know how to write code in order to interface with that stuff. You can just use natural language to work with it. And I think I have been extremely impressed because when all this conversation started back late 2022, early 2023 around AI adoption, healthcare was really pushing back. Well, we're too regulated, and I, I was listening to everything that was going on. I was like, well, fintech is pretty regulated as well, and they were one of the first to dive into it.
And that's ours, right? On our side of it, we've launched both SOC 2 audits, ISO 27001, 42001, both on the ethics and the cybersecurity of AI. We did both of those voluntarily to really help set the standard in fintech. That just because a company has AI or says they're fintech, it doesn't mean that you can trust that organization. So we're really working on the trust and the ethics and the compliance side, or the trust and ethics and security side of AI, which ultimately is, I think, what everybody's scared of. Right? There is the compliance piece, but if you really just think from an ethics and a morals of how would I want this entity to handle my information, we should just do the same. That is the standard.
Yeah, I agree. On the consumer side and on the business side, like how do I want this how technology to handle my customers? If I am going to be handing off some of the lower level work to an AI to interface with my customers, like I still want it to be reflective of my brand. I want it to be reflective of our brand's values and to treat them the way, if not better. I mean, we have seen with customer service bots that they have a lot more patience than human beings do sometimes, and that cracks me up. But so you mentioned something when we first got on the call about government shutdowns, I I have to admit I have no idea what you're talking about. I haven't been listening to the news.
Oh, let's see. Right, the budget weren't the government wasn't able to come up with a budget. So as of effective midnight last night, the government has shut down and cut spending. Much of it, like I say, many organizations, you can't pay for it. You shouldn't do it. Move forward. And they've shut down. So for us, from an organization standpoint, we look for what are the risks to our business, what are the risks to the economic or the different industry segments or industries, and then where the opportunities lie. Because as I was talking with my team this morning on our morning hustle call, there will be opportunities that come out of it. A lot of people say, okay, hey, we're going to lose all these jobs from a government shutdown. AI is going to replace everybody's job, and we're going to be all having robots doing everything. Kind of. It's really just an efficiencies, but it's just a reallocation of where you're using your resources and becoming more efficient and effective as an organization, of which there's tons of opportunities that are coming out of AI for new startups, new businesses, new growth opportunities within organizations. I think one of the things that AI really forces all business owners to do is really to sit back and look at their organization and say, are we really doing this the best, the most efficient, the most effective way, the most cost-effective way? And I think that that's really, now you have this, I say, awesome tool. I'm the most bullish on AI than probably anything I've ever been. I was never on the Bitcoin or crypto or RITs, or I never jumped on any of those. I do believe that AI will change the way that every single business and person, consumer or your own, or yourself as an individual, function the rest of your life. I think we're on the early.com.
I don't disagree with you, and I think, and this is going to be kind of controversial to some of my nonprofit friends out there, but like, if you look at best practices for nonprofits historically, like 70% of, at least 70%, pardon me, of your operating budget should come from your donor base, not from government grants that have been way overly dependent on for a long time, that said in the front end, 90% of them figure out a sustainability model once this grant cycle ends. But they kept pushing it out. I saw this with the opioid money, all that Sackler money like has been flooding in. Now it's about done. That started in 2018. It's 2025. We've sucked up all that money, and so you have a lot of nonprofits who are scrambling like, well, how are we going to provide these services when we're not getting these grants? Well, I read the grants when they came out. They said figure out a sustainability model. Some of that does mean going to your legislation and changing their funding models, pushing to have things funded that you have proven are effective. This was the whole, like, I think, attempt of Doge, and I'm not going to get real political. I'm not sure that was done right, but the idea behind it was not. I did not disagree with it. Let's use machine learning and AI to figure out where the inefficiencies are in any business. The government's a pretty big business to try that in first, right?
Right.
But that's a much less of a lift in a small to medium sized business than it is in something the size of the United States government. And I think you're right. I think people who embrace this technology are going to see their businesses thrive. Individuals who embrace this technology are going to see their roles evolve. And those who continue to stick their head in the sand or say, have that Luddite mentality of, I don't want this, like, eventually I'm going to stop feeling sorry for you because you're going to be a Kodak. You're going to be an ice harvester. You're going to be a Xerox. You're going to be an Apple. I don't think Apple's going to survive this either. And that remains to be seen.
Yeah,
But
even
how could
I think even Elon commented on Microsoft, and even the CEO of Microsoft said, AI could wipe us out completely from workflow automation inside of it. And I think that that's really one of the things that you touched on, nonprofit or for-profit businesses, that sustainability piece. Those business leaders that will leverage and lean into AI from a sustainability and efficiency side of their organization are really what it's pushing us to do as business leaders is to not go back to the well if that's grant money, to say, hey, I need more money. Like, no, I need to run a real business. I say profitable, break even business if it's nonprofit business or a for-profit business, and that's what is pushing. I also don't think that AI, going backwards a little bit, I look at AI as it feels like an early .com. It is not a first movers or losers. I completely disagree with that. I think this is first movers take all, because what AI's really allowed business owners of any size, nonprofit, for profit, one employee, the 50,000 employees, is it allows each one of us to be able to compete on a global scale, kind of seamlessly, easier, less expensive, because now you can pump out that marketing content. You can do the automations. You can do the machine learning side of it. You can understand the analysis. You can look at your financials. There's so many tools there that you didn't have access to as easy going through just quick Google searches, that it allows you to really propel and accelerate your organization. So I see it as that piece. And then you really look at it and I say, it's kind of like the .com. Those that are like, I don't know if I need a website, James. It reminds me of that. I don't know if I'm the old man. Like, I
right,
remember that.
right,
Like, I don't know if I need a website. I've always grown this way and we're fine. And it's those that are, if that is the mentality I believe that you have on October 1st, 2025, you are dead. You've already too slow. If you haven't started to lean in, let alone if you're not even using it to write your emails or polish things, you're so far behind already on how fast it's moving, and how fast it's not necessarily how your company can use it, but how are your competitors using AI as their advantage to be able to essentially eat you for lunch.
McKinsey or one of those companies did a study, and they found that like 95% of employees are using AI, whether their company says it or not. And I was talking to Carissa from Magic School the other day. She was talking about schools' adoption of AI, and I'm like, the thing that businesses and schools aren't thinking about is half your teachers, half your employees, they're probably already using it. So if you don't have a formal policy, you're actually putting your business at risk because you're not teaching your employees what's okay to do and what's not okay to do on a free foundation model, right? So particularly if you're a healthcare institute, if you've got peer recovery coaches who are putting in like information that's supposed to be HIPAA protected into Chat GPT without even turning off the "don't train on my information," right? You're setting yourself up for a catastrophic lawsuit. And so I think not only do people need to embrace this because if they don't, they're going to fall behind. But they probably need to embrace it because their employees probably already have. And if they don't get behind some type of safe use policy, then they're setting themselves up for a lawsuit down the road.
Yeah, it's what are those unknown liabilities or those risks that are out there as an employer that your employees are using different forms of AI agents or whatever it is out there and pumping your company information into. And I was looking at one of these websites that has kind of marketplace of all the different AIs, and I started looking into it a little bit deeper. And I start looking at some of the privacy policies of companies out of Romania, an AI Romanian company, and their privacy policies, because it adheres to Romanian privacy policies. But Jason and I live in the States, so we're used to United States privacy policies.
Yep.
As an employer, as an employee, is putting it into this awesome world-class Romanian AI company. That is massive risk to your organization in so many different ways. It is a third-party entity. You are sharing a company's third-party information with a third party that doesn't have the same U.S. laws on it, and that is why even a company like Intrepid, we would go, or intentionally going and voluntarily going down this path of showing ethics, the cyber side of it, how we're using the data, how we're locking this entire system down on it. And I think that you hit it is the business owners that haven't even written a policy yet, let alone started using it, are so far behind that they probably, as you said, employees are already using it, you're already at risk, and you're already behind the ball, both on the risk side and the implementation of AI. That's what's scary for me.
If you look at the average American consumer, right, like they're not that concerned with using foreign technology, because when the U.S. ban, the 72-hour U.S. ban of TikTok hit, like everyone was like, F you to the government, and jumped on the little red note, which is a CCP sponsored version of TikTok. And they were like, oh, look, Chinese people are nice. They're on here. Well, yeah, they are. That doesn't mean the Chinese government have access to your data is a good thing to have. Like, but they don't think their way through that. And that's what I'm getting at. I think this is where it's the business owner's responsibility, or the COO, or the chief technology officer. But let's face it, man, a lot of small to medium-sized businesses don't have a chief technology officer. They're lucky if they have a part-time subcontracted IT guy, let alone having a CTO. A lot of the conversation I hear around AI adoption is it's always at the enterprise level, and that's not going to look the same to smaller businesses as what it does when Coca-Cola can, buy 3 H-120s and hire a chief AI officer with a PhD and a whole team to deploy this stuff.
Right, the use case for AI, right, again, works from the one-man band all the way up to the 100,000, 2 million employer. Everybody has their own use case, but it's where are they jumping in at, and what is that use case? What are they ultimately trying to solve utilizing the AI, and are they leaning into it? I think those companies that are leaning into AI more and more, building the policies around it, understanding what their procedures are on it, are the ones that are going to continue to excel. And even as recent as last week, I heard 2 companies. One was Baker Hill, company here in town, long known in the finance space, that is now monitoring and managing how much each employee uses AI on the day-to-day and what those efficiencies are. And I love that piece of it. Like, now they're really saying, okay, we can start quantifying what this is, how we're using it. We have policies and procedures on it. And then you look at a company like Roche that is essentially mandating so many hours of AI training and AI adoption, everything from free seminars to paid classes and courses that are out there that, frankly, any organization can do for free. And that's the playing field. We have a data analyst offshore, and I say this, he's in Bangladesh. Bangladesh, the average wage, according to ChatGPT, in Bangladesh is $2,700 USD per year. Per year, $2,700 USD. Well, now it allows our guy, Sean, he's been with me for 5 years, to be on an even playing field with the rest of the world because he has high-speed internet in Bangladesh. So it really turns into who has hustle behind this. It's no longer of Jason got $50 million in VC money. It's no, you have hustle and you're utilizing all of these new resources that are out there to be able to accelerate your organization. I think that's what's really exciting about that is even, I say, the third world countries. It puts them on a much even more playing field to the rest of the world. So you're going to see this big separation of those that adopt and those that don't.
I agree. That's what's exciting. What's scary is how fast it changes. So if you're trying to create AI as a service, you could create something new that's outdated in 6 months. Like staying ahead, forecasting far enough out to say, okay, what product can I bring to market now that's going to be relevant 5 years from now is it's a little difficult at this point in time, right? I was talking about AI sandboxes, and I with a software engineer at Matchbox in Lafayette 2 years ago, trying to figure out how maybe we could create an AI sandbox for K through 12 schools. Shit, there's 10 of those products out there now, like thriving. And I would have had to gone from somebody who's never really played with technology to raising a few $1 million VC funds and launching a product in a 6-month period to have even stayed on the cutting edge of that. And I should have tried. I didn't. That's on me. But it does move fast.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're seeing is the velocity of which business, commerce, adoption, and growth are moving very quick. It is the pivot is happening very quickly, right? You feel just how fast, I say AI push just instantly kind of happened. ChatGPT announced, whole world breaks free and starts using it. It's just how fast. And the great news about AI, in my opinion, is it's the worst it's ever going to be today. Like, this is the absolute worst it's going to be, which is already mind-blowing and is well more capable of anything that Jason and Steve can even think of. It's already smarter than anything we can think of. But this is the worst that it's ever going to be.
So you're pretty insightful. I want to ask you about something I've been thinking about a lot lately, which is context engineering and ambient listening devices. And let me just frame this. So there are several companies and products out there who are basically creating custom GPTs as executive assistants for CEOs, COOs. All right. My theory on that is unless you are recording everything that goes on in your business day and feeding that knowledge to that custom assistant, you're essentially like going back to the 1950s and taking the secretary out of the CEO's office and going, hey, you know a lot about this company because of what comes across your desk. You're now the chief strategy officer. Set our 5-year strategy. Like, she doesn't have the context to do that. She has some context, but she's missing essential context. I think we're going to have to embrace, at least in our workday, not in our personal life, but in our workday, like ambient listening devices that know, so the AI knows everything that's going on in a business. And I think American consumers are not going to like that.
Yeah, and which is a funny thing, Jason, is because I'm all in on it. Like, I want it to read every email. I want it to know everything I'm doing. I do triathlons. I did my 25th Ironman this year. I had the best one that, from physical condition and shape that I was in was this year, and I contribute 100% of that to AI. I was feeding it my diet every day, my workout plans every day, if I skipped, what I slept, everything about it. My height, my weight, my hydration. I do believe it is the smartest thing in the world. And I do feel that I was the strongest in an Ironman that I've ever been. And I believe it because of that adaptability that I can't have a performance coach that knows, well, I'm tired. I could literally just plug in my watch information into the system and it would just tell you what your workout and it would modify it. On the privacy thing, here's what always gets me on the privacy. Everybody's scared about, I'm all in. I want it to read every email. I want it to listen to every conversation. I want it to know everything I'm doing. Maybe it's cheating. Maybe it's laziness. Just tell me the answer is kind of where I'm at. We can get into codification of it, which I know you and I have talked about before, the codification of AI on it.
Yes.
But people worry so much about privacy. But then when it comes to downloading that app, you have 50, 100 apps on your phone. And I saw something that said, like, they did some crazy survey, and I don't know the numbers, I'll probably batch this up, but generate the different generations that don't even know what terms and conditions are or privacy policies, because all they know is to click that box of information sharing, download app. They don't value their personal information and their privacy when it comes to downloading app, but then they're all freaked out about this AI, even though they've shared everything on their phone, their calendar, their emails, their hidden pictures, their Snapchats, they're all the things. They didn't even think twice about it. Just privacy share, download all, share everything that you want with all these random apps that you downloaded for 99 cents that all of a sudden you think is secure because it's on the Apple Marketplace or whatever. But then it comes to AI and everybody starts freaking out and you're like, no, you've been sharing recklessly, very recklessly for a very long time. I actually think there's probably more guardrails happening now than there were. And as companies like Intrepid, we're trying to get ahead of it and say, here's how we're using your data, and here's the ethics behind it, and here's how it's being shared, and how we're analyzing it. So it's a really interesting spot when you move from a business or a consumer, when everybody starts talking about privacy and privacy rights and all of these things, but they don't think for 1 second when they click, share everything in my world about me on my cell phone, which is probably the smartest thing in the world, that knows everything about you, that they share with these apps.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's a couple things that I think about in the business context, which is in any business culture, when we talk about how much more healthy it is to only have transparent conversations and not have back channel gossipy conversations, like that's probably part of the reason why people don't want something listening all the time at work, because they don't want to pick it up on their little gossipy side talk, which you shouldn't be doing anyway. But I also think you can weaponize this, and that's where the problem becomes when you have full transcripts. Like I had a B Pioneer ambient listening device that's not working now, but I had to go around to everyone at work and say, look, I'm testing this thing, right? And I show them how I use it. At the end of the week, I give it a prompt that says, what all did I work on? What all did I accomplish? Like, give me any business analytics that are necessary, and print it out in JSON, right? I can't even read the shit, so that I can stick it in my custom GPT executive assistant, and it has context to help me moving forward. So don't worry about the fact that you said Lucy's fat, and it picked it up. I'm not going to pick through the transcript and run to Lucy and show her that, but you will have the Daves at work who do stuff like that, and that's where I think we'll get into a little bit of a gray area of how do we design this technology so that, yes, it's ambient and always on, but it's not providing us with like detailed transcripts of everything. It's providing AI with coded information about the company that allows it to make proper decisions for the company.
Yeah, it's the almost anonymized information. Yes. I think it is a lot of the ones and zeros. We don't necessarily know that Jason said that Lucy was fat, but 1001 said that Jason was, or this is the demographic of the person that said that Lucy is fat, and this is how you should communicate. I'd see it as, It's really as a tool. I'm not doing this, and as we share with our employees, I didn't spend money on all these different AI systems to make anybody's life harder or more difficult. It's all about making everybody's job a little bit easier, better, faster, more efficient, more effective, to be able to just kind of give me the answer. I'm, like for you, you're recording those conversations for the betterment of the organization and these individuals and for yourself. I do think, recording devices are an interesting one, especially with, like two-party states from a phone call standpoint. But there is that whole public. If I say, hey, Lucy's fat in public, who cares if it's recorded or not? Because I said it publicly, right?
And Indiana is actually a one-party state, consent state. So only the person who's doing the recording has to consent to make it legal to record, and people are not going to like that either. And I think that kind of legality we'll probably get into down the road. But I think what you said initially plays into all this, which is before anybody tried to regulate you started exploring safe use of AI through I can't name the compliance tools, but SOC
and ISO 27001, 4201, which is on the ethics, the cyber side.
You preemptively did that. And I think when it comes to listening devices or anything else that is new territory, the more of us that preemptively figure out how to leverage it in a way that makes people still feel safe and protected, but betters our business, the less time we will spend in regulatory court trying to figure out, how to get our polarized sides to agree on regulation for this. And I'm reading a book called I think it's called Breakneck, but it's about the difference between China and the United States right now. And China is their where they're moving in business is very reflective of how we were in the industrial age when we were building railroads and factories and just, everything was expansion. And in the 1960s, we moved more to a legislative type of society. Two-thirds of our senators and Congress people have law degrees. Most of our past presidents had law degrees. So we'd love to tie stuff up in legislation. And I fear at a global scale, that will hurt us if we spend too much time trying to regulate something that could be catastrophic technology if the Chinese get too far ahead of us on it.
Yeah, I see kind of what we're doing on these certifications and these compliance pieces. It's the training wheels, and even going back to the earlier part of the conversation, it's the training ground, and it's kind of step one before getting into AI. Jason's dad didn't just throw you the keys to the car and say, just go drive. Right? Like, let's take a step back and let's warm up in this. Let's understand what the rules of the road are. What are the laws? And then what are Jason's dad's rules of the road? And that's really as you as a business owner you're doing before you're saying, hey, employees, here's the keys. Go drive the car as fast as you can. You're like, no, here's what the rules, here's what the guidelines are, here's what your curfew is, here's what you can and can't do. You can't do this, you should be able to do this, and this is how we keep it safe and secure. So I see it just the exact same. On top of it, right, I'm a consumer, I'm a buyer, I'm a business owner. How do I want my data used? Right? And if you just step back from a morals and ethics side of that, of would I feed my information in here? Do I trust this information in here? And if I feel comfortable with it, that there is no boogeyman behind the curtain, then that's what I really want to be able to provide to our client and say, okay, hey, there is no boogeyman. We're going to show you exactly how this is, and we're going to start easing into this.
I love that. That is a great philosophy for this. I do see more businesses starting to explore. I just did a training with a nonprofit last week, and it was I don't know how you do this in fintech, but I find one of the interesting things about AI is it has a different first use case aha moment depending on who's using it, right? And you kind of have to help people find that I always call it a chat GPT moment, but like that time when they go, oh wow, it can do that. Well, I wonder what else it can do, right? And there was a lady who walked in. She was the first one of this training. I could tell by the look on her face, and it's not an age thing. She was about my age, but it's not. I have come across young people who are pushed back against AI. I've come across older people, all ages, and then I've come across all ages who absolutely love it. And she had that look on her face. I could tell this isn't what she wanted to do, and she told me right out of the gate, like, I'm not for this stuff. But as we began to work through, like, what are the things in a nonprofit you're always doing, like 15 different jobs. So what are some of those things that you're doing? Let's map them out that are just cumbersome and you have to do them. And what are the things that you could be doing that are actually of value, not only to the organization, but you'd rather be doing? And okay, now let's take a look at how AI could lift away some of those cumbersome things. And I could see as time went on throughout the day, the smile start to get across her face. And by the end of the day, she was like, yeah, okay, I'm ready to explore some of this stuff. Even stuff as simple as Notebook LM. I think Notebook LM is a great introduction to RAG, right? Because people think if their only interaction with AI, large language models to date, is a free version of ChatGPT or Gemini, like they're used to all their answers coming from scraping the internet, right? So you might ask a question about something medical and you could get answers from some idiot who quoted on Reddit or Twitter, but you put documents in Notebook LM and ask it a question, and if it doesn't have that information, it will just straight up tell you that's not the information I'm provided, and if it does, it will give you a very good answer. And so that's like an elementary way to help people understand, okay, this is retrieval augmented generation. This is what happens when you're just pulling from a data source. Now let's build a custom GPT, which has a knowledge base, so it's going to lean heavier into that data source, but you may still get some hallucinations because it's capable of that. And when you start to introduce these concepts to people in bite-sized chunks like that, I have not met too many people who don't have that ChatGPT moment and go, okay, I do see some places I could use this.
Yeah, I say it's funny, or maybe I'm just not very cool. But a couple of weeks ago, I'm sitting here right behind us with a couple of my buddies on a Friday night, just hanging out, talking about it, and they were all on the like, well, I write an email or I've downloaded the ChatGPT app, and they were all kind of on the naysayer side. Next thing you know, it is Jason Friday night, and me and four buddies are sitting on the couch, and I've got it up on my TV, screen sharing, and I could see the enlightenment. It was almost like a light bulb that was just getting brighter and brighter in their head. And as their smile got bigger, and you're like, no, listen, like, I'm not a genius here by any means. I think I'm still on the introductory page of ChatGPT or of AI, in the book of AI. I don't think that I'm anywhere in the hemispheres smarter on this stuff, or as maybe even a guy like yourself. And I sat here with these guys on these naysayers and showed them, and you can just see the enlightenment, the education piece of like, this is really, really cool. This is brilliant on it. And I was having this conversation on Friday last week with one of our big partner banks that we're doing, there's a little teaser for you, a big deal with. And I said, hey guys, close your eyes. And we're going to literally go through this of closing your eyes and thinking through what are those nuanced things that you keep touching, you're doing, that we can solve systematically using AI to be able, so that when you open your eyes, you have this beautiful package right in front of you. And then if we can come up with that package, we can write kind of an AI roadmap to get it there, to solve that instantaneously. And you're talking, I call it old man banker. That's probably terrible to say, but old man banker sitting there like, wow, this is genius, And
Yeah.
like you start seeing
You showed them a use case that was applicable to them, right? And so that's why I can't stand all of the commercial marketing is like, oh, look how I can plan a trip for you, or help you figure out based on the ingredients in your refrigerator what a recipe. Like, who gives a shit? Like, give us some real use cases, like the things that you've talked about today already. And we're going to keep talking because we're almost at an hour. This is going to be a special episode. I'm just going to launch it as a podcast episode because it's been too good of a conversation not to. But people want to hear how they can use this technology in their life today to make things better. And I appreciate the compliment about knowing AI. I would have told, if you would have asked me January 1 of 2025, as an AI generalist, where do you feel like you're at on a scale of 1 to 10 with large language models? I would have said an 8. And then agentic AI caught fire, and now I'm back down to a 5. Like, there's so many nuances to understanding MCP and the safety behind MCP, and whether you use an API or an MCP connection, and what you can and can't do with vibe coding and sorting out code, and like it is rapidly evolving, right? And so I think sometimes I have a tendency even to get ahead of myself and say, wait a minute, forget about that stuff right now. Like, just with the existing tools that people can easily understand and that we know how to use, let's show the world how much more productive they can be and how much easier and more enjoyable their lives can be with those tools. I'll let the agentic people sort that stuff out unless I'm in a really safe sandbox. I mean, there was a company that used Replit, and it erased their entire code base overnight because of a mistake. A big company.
Yikes.
I don't want to be that far on the front, especially in healthcare. I don't want to be that far on the cutting edge that I'm like test piloting stuff for these companies before it's kind of worked out. But there's a lot of stuff that's already well worked out. I mean, if you look at HR software, a year ago, there were biases in HR software that were almost humans. Like, there was one company that it identified over the last 2 years, the most common thing that people who got promoted had in common was they were named Phil. And so the AI was like, okay, Phil's a good indicator of a good hire, so let's bring all the resumes to the surface of people named Phil. I mean, but what we've realized in the last year is, and you can identify those biases in an AI system, and you can train them out and make it less biased than a human being, because if you've got Phil sitting around your boardroom table and he doesn't like women at the table, right? Good luck training that by. I don't care how many PC trainings you send old Phil to. He's probably somewhere deep down inside still going to have this adversity to women being at the table. Whereas AI, once you identify it, you can train it right out.
And that's it. I was talking to the chief credit officer at one of the other institutions a few weeks ago. We were at lunch, and I said, "Hey, I think I can train this your gut, and I think I can run our portfolio through it. I can tell you what your gut felt on that day. Based on it, I can remove biases from this thing. We can start figuring out maybe some of your subconscious biases in your deals of your portfolio." Last year, we moved about $950 million in volume from in transactions as a company. And I'm saying I can feed this through there and figure out maybe some of the subconscious biases that we have utilizing AI. And I think that that's just a small piece of the use case of it. Now, if I have a couple of poker chips, I am leaning on, as we talk about how fast AI and this is moving, I think quantum is actually catching up. Now it's a little bit more of a poker chip on, I might throw a few poker chips over on quantum. I like the energy use. I like how it all ties together, how it can or manage data a little bit easier, faster, with less energy. So I kind of feel like maybe that might be where early adopters, first movers are losers or first movers are winners. I don't really know on the quantum side. But I think that it's something to definitely keep its eye on and put a couple of poker chips on how quantum's going to continue to move in and leverage, entangle with AI.
I believe that. I have never been mathy enough to even pretend like I understand quantum mechanics or quantum physics. I do think robotics is going to see the same surge as we've seen in large language models. Once you embody AI and start getting it out in the world to train, or Google has already pretty much solved the whole physics issue in like virtual training. Like, I think you're going to see robotics advance a lot faster than people are ready for, and I think that's going to be very disruptive in America, because China, again, not to go back to China, but China already has dark factories. They love to show them off. Like, they have entire factories. They have entire shipping yards that have very few human beings. It's all being run by robots, right? And the union, the longshoremen's union, like, those kind of strikes are only going to be effective for so long, because if we can't compete globally with other countries that are using robotics, then regardless of what our unions want or don't want, regardless of how much of a fit they throw, we are going to have to shift towards robotics. And that means retraining people. And I think we saw in the coal industry when they tried to do that, that's a concern that I have with manual labor, is not everybody who does manual labor wants to do something that's not manual labor. Like, a lot of those people, that's their identity, man. They are a rugged tree chopper downer or hell. I was a commercial fisherman. I for 5 years. I loved it. It was, but a lot of the guys I was fishing with, like, that was their dad was a commercial fisherman. They were a commercial fisherman, right? They didn't want to go learn how to run commercial fishing technology so that they could send the boat with a few robots out and sit back and collect a paycheck. They wanted to be a commercial fisherman. And so I'm not sure societally how we will address that type of a shift. But I would assume there's something along the lines of universal basic income. Maybe in your lifetime will become, you look like you're a little bit younger than me, and I've lived a pretty hard life. So I'm not sure.
I don't know if that's true, but I'll take it.
I'm 52, so.
All right. You got me.
Yeah. So I don't know if I'll see universal basic income as a necessity, but I do think my children may see a world where, I can almost envision a world where really aggressive, innovative people, which is probably, if we're lucky, 30% of the American workforce, can leverage AI to do 99% of the work that needs to get done. And then the other 70% of people, we're going to have to find something productive for them to find meaning in life from again. And this is where I love Elon. In the universal basic income conversation, he's like, that's a horrible idea. You should look at a 20-hour work week, because if you don't send people to work, you're going to have a big problem on your hands. And I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, it's companies are doing it really for the to stay relevant in the end. I mean, no one's really out here saying, okay, hey, I want to cut all these people's jobs or anything. It's the relevancy side of it. Okay, how do we stay relevant? How do we continue to grow? Some of this, I think, is it sounds bad, Jason. I think if it was self-created by the employee, by skyrocketing wages, tight labor markets, COVID. I call it a little bit of employee extortion on employers that forces employers to become more effective and efficient and come up with new, if that's robots to the way that you check in and out at the register yourself, it's forcing organizations to become, I say more intuitive, but adapting to technology and leveraging it. But there is that falling out, but just of employees that might be displaced, but there is still a massive amount of opportunities that are created out there that are being created from this. It is not just a job reduction. AI is not it's not the Grim Reaper. It's not here to just kill all these companies off or anything. There is a massive amount of opportunities, and I think that those that leverage it, from the manual labor person, you're seeing the manual labor people that are using it to just predict what trees to cut down, as you call it, right? Which trees, the best way to do it, the most efficient, effective way of being able to haul the logs out of there. That's how even a guy like that can be able to use AI to make better, more productive decisions that keep that tree logging business relevant. I mean, that's all that
Or
we're
even start
ultimately
their
doing.
own business.
Or
Right?
start their own
Instead of
business.
cutting trees for somebody else, now you've got a marketing department, a finance department. Like you can almost automate 2/3 of the stuff that you didn't want to do. If you learn how to leverage this technology, you can be an AI first company and leverage the technology to do a lot of the stuff you don't want to do. And I love marketing, and I've been doing it for a long time. Since 2022, I have tested I've created like tone, voice, and style guides. I would challenge anyone to go through my LinkedIn feed, which is pretty extensive, and tell me which ones I wrote and which ones AI wrote. Will you find some that are AI slop? You will, but there's a ton of them in there that, using the technology properly, there's no way in hell you could tell me that AI wrote it. And it was, Claude 4 when it was writing real well. A one shot. Just like, here, write this, boom. Okay, hell, I don't even have to pull the M dashes out of this. That sounds like a human being wrote it. I'm posting it, right? And the thing that I tell like development directors or fundraising people or marketing people is like, you're becoming an editor. As an editor, you have a choice. Like, editors for big newspapers back in the day, they still wrote pieces when they really cared about something, right? You still have the ability to write whatever you want to write. The newsletter because you got a free Sunday, go for it. But you have a choice of having it generated in your tone, voice, and style and on brand, so you can go actually meet with a donor and do something a little more human should you choose to do that. That's what I love about these tools.
Yeah, we've done our fair share of AI marketing slop, early Gen 1. Not gonna lie. I now look back and I'm like, God, did I really post that? That is terrible. Take that down. Like, man, that sounded great at the time, but man, that thing stinks. I will say, the only thing, there's plenty of things to not like about the marketing side and how it's writing it is, I would say one of my gripes is the dash. ChatGPT loves to add a dash. I've always used dashes, the double dash, in my emails.
Oh.
So now that ChatGPT and all these things are using the dash, everybody's like, oh, you didn't write that? You're like, no, dude, I've been using the double dash
Yep.
before this. So now I'm very cognizant of the infamous ChatGPT double dash in my emails that I'm like, yeah, Steve didn't write that. That's not an authentic email. He's got a dash in it. You're like, no, that's just how I write.
Yeah, you are one of a few people I've heard say that. I think there's more of us who are like, I never use that, and every time I see that, I have to go back and take it out, and it annoys me. Like I just have an email saved in my inbox that has an arrow in it, so I can just copy that and replace the dash with an arrow everywhere that it sticks those things, or three dots. But I have tried to train that out of ChatGPT with custom system prompts and all kinds of stuff, and it will never stop doing that, I don't think. Yeah. I think AGI is when AI can actually explain how women think to men, and B, when it stops using M dashes. That's my definition of artificial general intelligence. But
I like it. No, it sounds like a good kind of stopping point on how your definition on that. But yeah, the dash is a trick for us. I like the dash. Bring back the dash. Remove it from ChatGPT.
So can I run one last thing by you before we get out, before I let you go, because I've taken up a lot of your time. But I've been kind of I talk a lot about AI in education. I think it's really important that we address AI in early education and on through education and prepare kids for next gen. And I've been thinking about, like, what are the skills that people need? And I know we say critical thinking, EQ, yes on all those. Like, being able to work with other human beings and get them to leverage this technology or explain it to them is an obvious one. But when it comes to, like, what are the skills that people should be studying in school? What are the new skills, that certifications that would be valuable today? I'm thinking, like, designing reward functions that aren't sycophantic but that are actually outcome driven. Building eval systems so that you can actually evaluate. Like, if I could easily give an eval system to a small business to say, okay, you want to use commercial Claude, GPT, or whatever, like, run this eval system through it, and it will tell you which one of these is best for your company and for the KPIs that you're trying to get. Because how it scored on humanity's last exam and whether or not it, like, got first place in some high school algebra thing doesn't really mean a whole lot to your company. So what evals can we run on this thing that do mean something to your company? How do we start to mass produce human factor reinforcement learning? Like, how do we make reinforcement learning so it's not like you have to sit there and do it? Even the eval systems, I've heard, like, take a lot of manual labor because you have to sit there and check each answer and do it, right? Like, how do we automate that in a system that reflects our values and our KPIs? How do we shift people more towards, if they're going into marketing, an editorial mindset rather than just a creator mindset? AI project management, I think, is, if I could go get any certificate today, like how to manage a human hybrid AI project would be of high value. I think the HR space has a lot of value in the same thing. What does HR look like when agents become part of the company dynamics, right? And how do we regulate that? How do we address things as people start to even advocate for weird stuff like these things have agency and deserve rights and this and that? And then the final one is data analytics plus process mapping plus context engineering. I think is a super valuable skill. So that was a lot, but thoughts and things you'd like to add?
One piece that you touched on was education. It crossed my mind last night as I was sitting at the counter with my daughter last night, and I think of education, how AI impacts education. What's that mean for her from now as a 9-year-old little girl to when she's in college? And I'm bullish on the AI adaptability of education. I say what that is that it learning my daughter on how to communicate with her, and adaptive learning, that it's changing every single day through these systems, and it's communicating and talking to her in a way to teach her the lessons, not via prompts. We shouldn't really be teaching our kids necessarily prompts. We should really be teaching our kids how to do that strategic analytics and thinking of being able to get the answer. And these systems, I believe, can be adaptive to learn and teach these kids at a much more rapid speed than a teacher can. I mean, that's just where my bullishness is on it, is I want to systematically program my daughter into it to teach her. Why am I able to articulate math so much better than Sylvan Learning Center to her or her own teacher to her? Is because I spend so much time with her. I know her tone. I understand what she's going through. And I think that that's even how an education and how AI can be such a resource for students and teachers, is almost customize AEP programs for these kids to get them to say, Jason's going to be a rocket scientist, and this is the path that he's going to get on, because this thing knows how to talk to him, his feelings, his codification, his everything, to get him to where he is and understanding it. And I think that it's one of the areas that I'm bullish on. I really like the healthcare, although I'm in Fintech side. I really like the healthcare side. I think it is the most brilliant system. I think it can solve a lot of the healthcare challenges that are out there on it. But at this point, it is wading into it. I don't think it's a wait and see. I think if those that are waiting are already behind, and guys like you and I and the rest of the world are going to try to continue to accelerate behind in front of them.
Dude, I'm going to connect you with Chris at Magic School because that tool, and there's one for parents, is really cool. For it's K through 12, and it's exactly what you're talking about. It's basically a sandbox of AI tools customized for student learning, and I'm very bullish on that as well. I wish my 15-year-old thinks I don't know anything about anything. Like that's the whole Mark Twain. I can't believe how stupid my dad was when I was 14, or how much he learned by the time I was 27. She's kind of in that in that realm right now. But healthcare, this is why I think Google will probably be the number one company in the AI space eventually. OpenAI has the Coca-Cola, right? It was first to market with large language models. It will definitely be very dominant. Nvidia is scary because they're kind of the Skypack or the Skynet of the real world. They've got end to end everything from robotics to the chips to everything. But the thing that I look at it with Google is they have DeepMind. Demis Hassabis has 5,000 employees at DeepMind. They're not just cranking out large language models. They're like solving protein synthesis and drug discovery, and like that stuff is going to revolutionize how we live life and how much longer we live life. And that side of AI is way over my head, but it is so exciting, and I can't wait to see what happens with all that.
And just yeah, we can end. I say end on that. That's the positive side of it. That I don't think that average individual or person understands on how AI is being utilized to improve their life, the mortality tables, their health. And I think that that's that revolution side of it that you're going to really start to see. That's, again, I'm pushing my poker chips in that this thing can solve and help Jason's and Steve's mortality tables in our health by being able to use AI. And you're looking at those big firms saying they're rapidly scaling, and I don't want to say scaling, solving at lightning speeds that have never been done before. And that's what I think is ultimately exciting, if you believe in AI or not. But there's a system out there that's smarter than any of us.
What a perfect way to end, because the last question I always ask my guests is a fun one. If one sci-fi movie had it right, 15 years from now, which one do you think is closest to what our world will look like?
Not much in the movies, but I naturally always go back to the Matrix. But is that, again, I say the old man.
No, Matrix is. I can see the Matrix almost in a social divide. I think there probably will be people who become like very anti-technology as all this progresses, and then there'll be those who dive so deep in that they want to have their VR glasses on and live almost in a virtual world the majority of the time, which is kind of where Neo is trying to escape from, right, in the Matrix.
Yeah.
But that's a good answer, man. And what a great conversation.
Jason,
We'll
always
share
great.
all your links in the show notes.
Yeah, no, Jason, always great chatting with you, man. Let's set up the next one and keep the conversation going. But I appreciate everything you're doing in the AI land, and always down to have a Friday night chat on the couch and just brainstorm and from vibe coding to just poking around on AI and chatting what's changing in the world on it, man. But always great to see you.
Thanks, Steve. If people want to follow you, where's the best place to go? Is it LinkedIn? Is it Twitter?
Yeah, LinkedIn is by far. So linkedin.in/Steve Iskander. So Steve Iskander is my handle on there. And find us there, or intrepidfinance.io.
Awesome. Thanks.
Great seeing you, man.